Oh, we've got a fun one in for restoration today. A Fender Super. Now we're not sure yet if it's a 58 or 59, but the tube chart shows it as a 5F4. And when we get it apart, we'll verify when it was made, but there's a couple of things you can see just by looking at it. Clearly it's well tattered tweed that we can clean up a little bit. I love that nylon handle they've got up there, and it's only got a 112 baffle board in it, so that's been replaced. But we'll take a look at it. Let's take the back panel off and see what we see. So there you go. With the back panel removed, we can see it's got a replacement single 12-inch speaker in there. The baffle board is a piece of plywood someone slapped in there. We removed the tube covers. Here we've got the original 2-prong, and it appears all the original electrolytics are in there. We've got some leaky issues here, typical cobwebs and stuff. Let's take a little closer look at those filter caps. And here they are, and the telltale sign, you can see the kind of stain on the outside cover of that cap, which generally indicates they're leaking. And a closer look, particularly with a little flashlight in there, you see all that goo coming out of the positive side of the two on the right. The caps have failed, so we'll need to replace all of those, which I think was something we knew we'd do anyway. And generally speaking, the astrons in an amp this old are usually leaking. They're well known for that. So all the yellow caps in the circuit, we'll test for leaking because we don't want to replace them if we don't have to. But they usually do leak. We'll test each one, but I bet we're going to have to replace them all. And not to mention all the dust and crap in there that we'll have to clean up. And there is the tube chart inside the amp, and you can see it's a model 5F4. And as far as dating this particular one, there is the stamp. Kind of difficult to tell. It looks like it's IH. Or if it's upside down, it's HI. Interestingly enough, if it's HI, it's a 58. If it's IH, it's a 59. So we'll see. We might have to look at the pot codes and see what they've got to say. And here's the stamp again, right there on the chassis. And because it's put in sideways, again, we don't know if it's IH or HI. So it's either a 58 or a 59. We'll find out as we get into it. Well, as you can see, we've got the chassis out of this Super now, and you can also see just how nasty this thing is. It's pretty bad shape, a lot of crud and stuff hanging off. There's even splits in the leaves of the transformer, which scares me a little bit. But we're going to clean it up a little bit so we don't feel so bad working on it. Well, it looks a little better. That's just kind of a first go around at it, just to get the crud off it and all of that. And as long as we got it to this point, we need to clean and retension all the tube sockets. Of course, to do that, we take our trusty little diaper pin here and we get it alongside the sleeves that hold the pins from the tubes, and we just kind of bend them in a little bit, just so they're, 70 years or however long this has been, they've been out, kind of splayed out and loosened up. So we're going to tighten them by doing that, and then we'll come back with some deoxit, spray the tube pins and work them in and out of there a little bit, and clean all of those. So we're going to go do this to every tube socket. So that bottom ledge of the chassis is always cruddy with dust and dirt and crap that's been accumulating over the years. So a toothbrush, and we cleaned all of that. Looks much better. And we're about to get into tearing out these bad electrolytics. Oh, and just a quickie too, while you're in here, don't forget to clean all the jack contacts. We use a burnishing tool. Make sure all of those are good. Don't forget the speaker jack too. And in getting ready to clean all the pots with the oxide, I wonder, can you see this here? I wonder how long it's been since his treble pot worked like it was supposed to. We'll have to get that resoldered on as well. And while we're in here, you can see the pot code here, 137-926. So that's about June of 1959. So we know that the stamp code that we looked at is indicating 59, not 58. All the pots in here are dated 59 except for one, which is from 58 over on the presence control. Well, we've got all the original caps out of this 59 Super now, and these just might be right up there with some of the worst caps I've ever seen. All of the main electrolytics have blown their insides. Gotta go pretty bad. So we've kind of gone as far as we can with the parts we had in stock. We removed all the original electrolytics, replaced the ones that we had in stock, and while we're waiting for the replacement caps to come, we're going to move on over to the power cord side and get rid of this 2-prong, put in a 3-prong. We've got one death cap off of the ground switch, we've got another one off the standby switch, and we're going to remove those and wire in a safer 3-prong power cord. Now while we're in here, part of what makes this amp look bad are these rusty washers underneath the switches. So while we're there, we're going to take these out, clean the washers up, and flip them over. Usually the other side of the washer isn't as ugly and rusty looking as what you're seeing there. So we're going to clean those up. We might even replace them and put the original washers in the old parts bag, but it'll help the amp look a lot better. So here you can see, just by getting the rust off the washer to the degree you can and brushing out the switch, just makes it look a lot better on the amp than the one we haven't worked on yet. And by the way, we're going to replace this switch so it matches this one. Here's a shot at the 3-prong install where I removed the death cap, and there's a tab there that I just rewired the ground to. Then you have to rewire a little bit around here. You got to get the white wire and one leg of the transformer on one side, black wire on the other, jumper it over to the fuse, and then from the fuse to the power switch, and the other leg of the transformer is on the other side of the power switch. So you got to rewire it like this so that the ground switch is kind of out of the circuit, and you use it as a holder for the wires that you need. But that's how you rewire it to get the 3-prong properly done. Well, 200 staples later, I got the old original grill cloth off of his homemade 112 plywood baffle board, and we got it put on the original baffle board that he was smart enough to keep. And we got the special reverse threaded screws, getting ready to mount the speakers and put this thing back together. Well, there you go. We ended up replacing all the electrolytic caps, and we replaced all the Astrons with Mallory 150s. All of them were leaking. We have, at least to this point, left the Astrons that are mounted to the tone pots. But there it is, the restored electronics of this 59 Super, along with a properly rewired 3-prong power cord added. And we just finished up replacing the baffle board with the proper one, and we used a couple of vintage, they're called vintage Jensen P10Rs -F. They're made for Fender, and they're supposed to be pre-broken in and all of that kind of stuff. They seem to sound okay. Let's check it out. Well, there you go. We've got the instrument volume on about 10. Goes to 12, you know. And we've got the guitar volume rolled off a little bit, and that kind of cleans it up. So there's a little hair on it, but when we crank it up, this is what a Super sounds like on 10. '59 Fender Super.